For almost a century, U.S. presidents have witnessed and reported UAPs, including Franklin Roosevelt, Jimmy Carter, and Ronald Reagan. Did aliens seek and observe these leaders of the free world up close? Why? Has there already been contact? If so, is it something to do with controlling the limitless wealth contained in the skies above us? Our leaders have acknowledged that they are here, but another group seems intent on keeping that truth hidden. Who is this group? And how does it seem to have more power than our elected leaders? These are the Alien Disclosure Files.
I am directing a comprehensive and intensive effort to define a long-term research and development program to begin to achieve our ultimate goal of eliminating the threat posed by strategic nuclear missiles.
In 1983, tensions in the world were growing. As the Cold War was getting warmer, the U.S. decided to open up a new front and take the fight from land and sea into outer space. Ronald Reagan delivered his famous Star Wars program speech, officially known as the Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI.
That we could intercept and destroy strategic ballistic missiles before they reached our own soil or that of our allies.
There was even a video game-style rendering of how the Strategic Defense Initiative would work.
Banning into space, a layered defense to protect the country from nuclear devastation.
Reagan's vision of expanding into space was a bold and revolutionary theory, but it did little to cool the growing tensions.
The Russians didn't care for it. You know, they felt that it was going to be something that they wouldn't be able to compete with. And frankly, I don't think that Reagan really knew what he had in Star Wars.
In November of 1985, President Reagan and Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev met at the Geneva Summit in Switzerland in an effort to help ease the growing tensions between their countries.
During the break, all of a sudden, President Gorbachev and President Reagan took a walk. They went down to some cabin on Lake Geneva where there was a fire and a fireplace.
President Reagan suddenly said to me, "Oh, what would you do if the United States were attacked by someone from outer space? Would you help us?" I said, "No doubt about it." He said, "We too." So that's interesting.
So it seems kind of odd that in the middle of a Cold War, that Reagan would even pose such a question. He was going out on a limb that Gorbachev would even take him seriously.
He was a lot more interested in the UFO topic than he was ever allowed to tell people. And so as he became president and started talking about different things alien-related, such as his speech to the UN.
On September 21st, 1987, President Reagan addressed the 42nd session of the United Nations General Assembly with a stunning speech.
We often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
He said if we were all threatened by an extraterrestrial species, wouldn't it bring us together? A lot of people think that that's because he had some sort of inside knowledge. And there are rumors that he was taken and briefed about multiple extraterrestrial species engaging humanity.
Where was all this extraterrestrial rhetoric coming from? It turns out that Reagan had firsthand evidence of the possible threat. The president was flying over Bakersfield, California, when he saw something strange behind the plane. He later told the Washington bureau chief of the Wall Street Journal We followed it for several minutes. It was a bright white light. We followed it to Bakersfield, and all of a sudden, to our utter amazement, it went straight up into the heavens.
This sighting stuck with Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan's presidential predecessor, Jimmy Carter, also witnessed a UFO in 1969. He describes standing outside of Lucky Leary's lounge amongst 20 other people who all witnessed an object.
Jimmy Carter is another president that had an encounter with a UFO. This time it was on a campaign trail back in his native state, where he actually saw a UFO flashing red, white, and blue lights. Carter thought enough of the encounter that he filed an official UFO report.
Here he is, unbeknownst to him at the time, going to be a future US president. And the contrails that shot across that sky were red, white, and blue. Might they have known something that Jimmy didn't know at the time?
He reported his sighting on September 18, 1973, to the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena and the International UFO Bureau.
He carried his curiosity about UFOs into his presidency, where he tried again and again to get access to UFO-related information and was flatly denied.
You know, when I was a kid, I would go to sci-fi movies, and there was always some big robot, waving his arms and saying, "Take me to your leader." Considering FDR, Carter, and Reagan, all were involved in some way in developing programs in their administrations for UAPs, I don't think the aliens needed any direction. They knew how to find them.
With such irrefutable eyewitness accounts of alien encounters, why are there still questions around UAPs? Surely the government would have released confirmation by now. Or is there a powerful group trying to keep the truth from coming out? In 1944, President Roosevelt released a double top-secret document confirming our specific knowledge of the existence of extraterrestrial life. In the document, Roosevelt wrote of finding ways of advancing our technology and national progress, and in coming to grips with the reality that our planet is not the only one harboring intelligent life in the universe.
The president is responsible as a transient official to maintain order for 4 to 8 years.
A lot of people think there's a ruling elite that is secretly running everything on this planet, and that presidents and politicians and that people that we think are our leaders are really just puppets of this secret hidden group. And a lot of people think that this group is managing the information about the truth of UFOs, UAP, and extraterrestrials for a whole variety of reasons. One of which is the fact that if this technology was put into the hands of humanity, the entire power structure on the planet might implode.
No matter how powerful the president appears, it is a temporary position. But there are other figures in society whose power is less fleeting.
Sir, I cannot answer who they are, but we know they exist. There are people in this world who work together to affect change, some good, some bad. They don't raise a banner and say, "Hey, I'm part of the ruling elite." They go about their business and their daily routine like anyone else. But there are powerful people in this world that we don't know anything about. That's a fact.
With the wealth and power these people have built over generations, it is reasonable to believe that they could wield more influence than any world leader. But one recent president has adopted a more transparent approach to his relationship with alien life.
I'm hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a Space Force as the 6th branch of the armed forces. That's a big statement.
In June of 2018, President Donald Trump established the Space Force in order to outmaneuver China and Russia's advances in space, a space-based defense strategy to compete with political opponents. The policy bore uncanny similarities to Reagan's Star Wars program.
I believe that the United States and China are a factor. I think they're players. But again, the information is not always available. We do not know who the players are because it's beyond our pay grade. And these entities don't necessarily report to the general public with all their advances, all their ideas, all the goals that they're trying to accomplish.
Like Reagan, did Trump have alternative extraterrestrial motives behind his announcement? One man who seems to know exactly what Trump was up to is Haim Eshed, former head of Israel's Defense Ministry's Space Directorate. Eshed claims that there is a galactic federation of Earthlings who are working with extraterrestrials. There is an agreement between the U.S. government and the aliens. Eshed told Israeli media they signed a contract with us to do experiments here. It sounds insane, but former Canadian Minister of Defense Paul Hellyer also verified the Federation's existence.
It's been reported in a couple interviews that you've mentioned there's a federation of alien species.
Well, I only know about the Galactic Federation, and I don't know much about it, so I shouldn't talk about it. But they are concerned about what's going on in the world, and they have been working through individuals. They'll pick out a few individuals and visit them, or talk to them telepathically, or send information to them by channeling.
It is possible someone who's 80 years old would feel guilty or would want to share information that he's been holding for years.
So considering there are two former defense ministers, one from Israel, one from Canada, who both have stated that there is a galactic federation made up of aliens and Earthlings that are at work right now on Mars. Two people with that kind of credibility, you have to give it some consideration.
Some of the presidents that have had encounters with UFOs had them before they were president. And then there's stories about presidents that had encounters with UFOs and extraterrestrials while they were still in office. This is true of Eisenhower, and it's also true of Roosevelt. Could it be that they were making secret negotiations with some of these extraterrestrial beings?
This federation points to a collaboration between Earth's powerful rulers and the aliens. If that is the case, what could they possibly be working toward? Simply put, the unlimited wealth of space.
If you control space, you control it all.
Our exploration in space has shown that the universe contains endless resources of the kind that humanity craves. Limitless solar energy, minerals, metals, and atmospheric gases that can be used in a multitude of ways here on Earth.
You know, there's an infinite number of elements waiting for us out in space that would really benefit Earth. They've already found water and cobalt and gold and lithium.
We know this is not anyone's opinion, this is fact. We know there are minerals in space. We know there are minerals in space. The question is, can we mine them? And who's going to pay for it? And it's going to be have to be powerful and prominent people supporting those type of endeavors. You know, the regular guy working 9 to 5, making $120,000 a year, he cannot finance a trip to Mars. So that's where you start talking questions about the powerful and the ruling elite and governments.
In 2011, an international team of scientists discovered a planet billions of miles away that is 20 times the size of Jupiter. It is so dense with carbon that a large portion of the planet is composed of pure diamond.
We hope that the person that gets there is willing to use it for mankind. That's ultimately what you want. Okay, I got a hold of these resources, I'm gonna bring it back to the United States, I'm gonna bring it back to Africa, China, Ukraine, and we're gonna build a better country, a better world with these new resources. I hope the person is a good person.
One of the most dramatic discoveries in the intergalactic piggy bank is the asteroid 3554 Amun. This is a metallic asteroid hiding potentially $20 trillion in gold beneath its surface, along with trillions in nickel and platinum. It's no wonder movie director James Cameron set up a space mining company called Planetary Resources with Google co-founder Larry Page.
We talk about Hollywood all the time and how they have influence on the behavior of our youth. I don't know. Are they the people that would get a hold of the technology and present it as they see fit? Possibly. But we know that Hollywood has changed the minds in the direction of America many times.
With limitless wealth at stake, is it crazy to believe that these people would do everything in their power to hide their activities? The truth is becoming almost impossible to verify. New technology in visual effects and the AI revolution have made it so producing fake images, audio, and video indistinguishable from the real thing is child's play.
I'm hungry. Hey, boy, give me some chicken nuggets.
Thank you, sir.
No need for thanks. Get me some fries, too.
There are strings we can pull, but we don't have to. You are pulling them for us.
Governments have suppressed information about aliens for a century. So why are they so eager to come clean now? Is the fragmentation of culture brought on by social media being used to keep the truth hidden in plain sight?
If you want information disseminated quickly, use social media. And there's a sense of you don't have to be as responsible for that information, where it goes.
It's classic counterintelligence. Social media platforms host thousands of cell phone videos capturing UAP activity across the planet. Those that are witnessed by credible pilots, captured in city settings with high-resolution cell phones, in plain sight at night. The internet has tens of thousands of UAPs, while other tricks simply do not fly.
It could be information or misinformation. It could be accurate or inaccurate. It could be tainted. It could be half the truth. But whatever the person who's creating that information desire is at that time.
Images of UAPs are becoming clearer and getting authenticated by credible experts in videography and national militaries. Sightings are more frequent, and some are witnessed by hundreds at a time. So what or who is stopping us from separating the fake from the truth? The tension between our public leaders and the shadowy hand behind the throne may have been playing out in public for decades. At the end of his presidency, Eisenhower coined the term the military-industrial complex and warned of the importance of the balance in power.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
There were rumors that President Kennedy was going to dismantle this military-industrial complex and seek answers about extraterrestrial life.
Secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
For some theorists, this attempt at transparency contributed to his assassination in 1963. Who has the power to silence the most powerful person in the world?
You know, it's difficult to know really how much a president knows. I mean, they're a transient figure in this. 8 years at a time? And isn't it curious that each one of them, at some point in their administration, voiced an interest in knowing more? And at any one time, we've had anywhere from 20 to 30 different programs studying UAPs, each studying a different aspect of it. So that means that there are 20 or 30 pieces of this puzzle out there. Is there anybody who can see the entire puzzle? Is there any entity or one person? Is it the ruling elite? You know what? I guess we'll never know.
Whoever gets to represent our species in a relationship with a technologically advanced race instantly receives enormous power. And when the stakes are this high, the formerly unimaginable suddenly becomes necessary.
If a certain piece of technology came to planet Earth, who would control it? The powerful people would. The person with the most power would probably access it through wealth or favor or manipulation.
If your interests lie in protecting trillions of dollars in precious metals and the building blocks of modern civilization, then keeping a president quiet for a mere 4 to 8 years seems a small price to pay.
Anytime you say something that's inconsistent with the norm or say something that's inconsistent with our current belief system, you're going to have some pushback. There's going to be some conflict there.
Could it be that Haim Eshed and Paul Hellyer were the only two honest men in a culture of secrecy and influence?
Are there people working in science that have information I don't have? Yeah. Do they do things I'm not aware of? Yeah. Does the government operate on a need-to-know basis? Yes.
So whether you're a believer or not, you have to give it consideration, considering the information is coming from two very credible sources. That there's a galactic federation under contract.
No little green men or women have landed on Earth and delivered that old cliche, take me to your leader. They haven't had to. They've managed to find our leaders on their own. And ever since, we've been trying to meet them halfway.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.